Welcome back to Dr. Supercoach, and in this video I'll be discussing this or that as provided by our Slack. Coming up. Hey, what's up? It's JB here from Dr. Supercoach, and if this is your first appointment here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming updates before the season starts this week. Now, today's episode is focused on this or that as provided, as you can see here, by the left side of the screen, which is our Slack channel. Obviously, this is provided to all our Patreons, our bottom tier, so you can join up. So I've created a channel here called This or That, which is strictly used for this video for people to ask between two options that they're deciding on in their team. And I'll give a brief explanation, or maybe sometimes a lengthy explanation, as to why I think you should choose either this option or that option. So I see this very popular on Twitter, people deciding between a couple of different options. So I thought I'd run it on the YouTube and see how we go. So we're going to start off with CJ, call me Deacon Buse. Now he's asking Ash and Shizu versus Warple and Phillips. So in a team with Yo D2, the extra information there. So I think this is quite easy. I actually like Ash and Shizu more than Warple and Phillips. So a lot of people have been talking about Shizu and the fact that he was moved around and didn't really have a strong position or just the single position for the entire match in the most recent practice match from North Melbourne. I actually think it's a positive. So Shizu, if you watch the match, had a good start to the game, had a good first quarter, had an okay second quarter, or a bit quieter. I think he went statless in the third quarter, which is a concern for rookies. However, Clarko then, after seeing that, moved him into defence, and then he ticked over his score and got to the 70 mark playing in defence as a halfback. So I don't think he's going to start any given game at halfback, but I think if he isn't working into the game as well as they'd like, they do move him around to get him into the game, to get his hands on the footy. So it's really going to be a strong season for Shizu, I think, and the coach is going to make sure that happens. Over Phillips, who, by the way, was good, high half forward sort of roaming. I just don't think he has, or he's going to provide the consistency that Shizu will provide. Whereas he might have a couple of ceiling games. He reminds me a little bit more of a Rochelle type, who might have a couple of ceiling games, but also relying on goals in a maybe lower ranked side this season is going to be very difficult. And then Ash vs Warple. This is very interesting. So I like Warple's role a lot. I had Warple in my team for some time, but replaced him eventually with Ash. I do prefer Ash's halfback role. Historically, he's played very well off of halfback in the past. He scored, I think, 129 in the practice match, playing off of halfback last week. And with that, he had, I think, 70% time on ground. So he was essentially put on ice for the last quarter. I think it was he had really low TOG for the last quarter. So it could have gone a lot higher. I have a lot of faith in Ash. Not to mention Yo D2, which I am also running at the moment. Ash coming in with defensive status after 6 weeks could be extremely handy for our team, especially if you've got someone like Chinkota or Chessa on your defensive bench. You can potentially switch them around. Put Phillips on field, or having made an upgrade in midfield potentially, and then get Ash onto your field in defense to sort of hold down the fort there. So I think that's all very, very valid, very interesting. We're going to go to the next one. So by the way, if that wasn't clear, Ash and Shizu by far for me. Phillips or Phillips starting on field. Now, this is interesting. I don't mind the Phillips chasing the higher score early. I think rookies do tend to have a good start to the season in the first few rounds rather than a random round 8 ton or something like that. But Phillips' role, if he's getting CBAs, which he did get some of in the Pracky match, should give him a higher floor. I don't know if his ceiling is going to be quite as good, but you really want to, especially early days, you don't want to lose to the field. And if a lot of people are putting Phillips on their field, him getting an 80 to a Phillips 40 starting day, early days, can be very detrimental to your rank. So I would definitely play it safe and go Phillips there, starting on your field. So that's from Troy. Now, Dan has credited me for the great channel. Thank you, Dan. Needs advice on Callahan versus Flanders. Finding it very difficult to separate them. Currently have Callahan, but I'm not confident about his role. To be fair, not confident about Flanders' role either. Or a better choice than those two. So this is interesting. So around this price range, I don't think there's a better choice than these two. I think we can be quite confident on both of their roles. It's going to be exactly what we saw in the preseason. No Took Miller didn't change Flanders' role at all. He's still only got a half dozen CBAs, which can be expected throughout the season. If he's that 5th or 6th guy in, he can get maybe 1 or 2 a quarter. Callahan as well, wing role for the entire match. I think we can expect him to play predominantly on a wing. He had no CBAs whatsoever. I think O'Halloran was the next in for GWS. So it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting split. Flanders did get 30 touches from half forward, and Callahan dominated from a wing. So this to me is much of muchness. Do you back in a half forward from Gold Coast scoring well enough, or a wing for GWS? And they're both not good Supercoach positions, but they're both good young up and coming players. So right here, you're genuinely. I can help you off the fence if you want. I would probably side with. Maybe I can't help you off the fence. I'll probably side with Callahan. To be honest, I think the wing role, although it is very difficult, he seemed very good at it. And I think he's got a higher chance of still sneaking in CBAs as the season progresses. Whereas Flanders, I think he's probably at his max with where he's going to get CBAs. And half forward is very, very difficult to score from. You're talking Dylan Moore, Zach Butters, essentially, as the two guys who have made a living off of half forward before. And they really did. They kicked goals as well. Flanders had no goals in the pracky. I don't think he's a strong goal kicker. He might be a bit of a ball magnet, but I think in terms of longevity, I think Callahan probably beats him out longevity-wise. But that is a very difficult decision. So that I can understand why that's been asked in the channel from Dan. Now, Logan has come with Covington at F4 and Neil at M2, or a similarly priced option, or Golden F4, Steel M3 behind Bond. Okay, so the way I look at these is you're talking about Covington, who won't be a premium, we assume, and Neil, who is top of the line Uber, and Gordon, who could be a premium, and Steel, who is just a slightly discounted premium. So I think because you've got Bont, who's a good VC/C option, I assume then you've got Laird or Clary as your M1. I'm likely leaning towards this option here, Gordon and Steele. So Steele did have, despite not being able to find the footy, 85% CBAs, which is mental if he gets that throughout the season. Very hard to see him going sub 115. Probably at the very worst hovers around that mark. And Gordon, obviously, you're picking as someone who can be a premium, a definite. That is the reason that you're picking him, is that you believe he can be a premium. So if you do believe he can be a premium, then I would go for that option. Whereas if you don't believe in Gordon, if you don't think he can be a premium, then I think you're going to make more money from Cunnington. And I think Neil is going to be a higher scoring player than Steele by what could be 10 points per game. So it really just comes down to what you think about Errol Gordon. So personally, I don't think Gordon is going to be that guy, but I think he's still a good enough chance at it. So I would go the second option. But I completely understand why this first option is in your head, and I can understand why that might be more popular. Now, the next one is Jordan. So DDD didn't quite resolve this one for me. That's not a glowing endorsement on our Doctor's Daily Doses there, Jordan. But English versus Darcy. Now, I was involved in at least one of these DDDs, and it hasn't actually quite solved it for me either, because you can't quite solve this one. Both of them very injury prone. I think I will get off the fence for you, but I'll sort of do it in a way of providing you with an option as to which type of player you are. So on one hand, I think English is actually slightly more injury prone just because I think concussions are easier to come across than the randomness of Darcy's injuries, if that makes sense. I think concussion is still a prominent part of our game, and it happens probably statistically would happen once in every 2 matches, I would say. That is a complete guess. I apologize if that's wrong, but I'm not sure someone like Darcy, I don't think he's got the same statistics on whether he gets a niggly injury. And he actually shows that he can play through them. English cannot play through a concussion. Obviously, no one can. So I think it's very interesting that somehow we've found a more injury-prone player than Darcy. I think both of their flaws are pretty good. Darcy with the Luke Jackson, I think people were a bit worried about, but I was okay with that ruck split in the first pracky, and then Jackson didn't play in the second one, so that's a bit hard. But I think Darcy is their number 1 ruck, probably looking at around 70%, much better than what he received with Lloyd Meek in the team. So I think there is improvement there to be had. But English just has a ceiling that is almost unmatched, not in SuperCoach, but definitely in the ruck line this year, I think. So I do think English is that higher shot for ceiling than Darcy, but I think he's more likely to miss a game due to concussion as opposed to Darcy's little niggly injuries. So it kind of goes back to your risk appetite. Are you willing to risk a missed game and scrambling for a backup ruck for the sake of a higher ceiling? I think I will be. I'm currently on Darcy. I've been on Darcy for more than a week, maybe 2 weeks, but I think I'm slowly coming around to English as the better pick, just because I like going for those higher ceiling guys. So I hope that splits it for you as to what you actually want to get out of your ruck line, potentially using a trade there, but going for the higher ceiling player in English. So David is next, who has the better scoring potential between Shizu and Phillips. I have 2 teams I'm looking at. One fields Jelly Goulden Phillips, the other is Neil Warple Shizu. Interesting. So this has levels to it. So the first one, Jelly Goulden Phillips, has an extra premium, if you do believe Goulden is such. And in the second one, you're upgrading Jelly to Neil for a safer premium there. And you're getting Warple as well, who I believe has a very good role. So that's very difficult. To answer your initial question, I think it's very similar. I think Shizu will go around 70 and Phillips probably around 70 as well. So that's very difficult. I think Shizu probably has more spike scores in him than Phillips. But Phillips probably has a higher floor. So if that helps you, I have no idea. Personally, I would go with the... if given that exact way, it again comes down to Goulden, because you're getting an extra premium in this one if you believe in Goulden. So I would definitely go this way if I was a Goulden believer and I thought he was going to be an uber premium, whereas I would go this way if I didn't think that. So I don't know if that exactly helps with the this or that, but that's the information I can give you. I'm sorry. Rivo has come up with a conundrum: Ash, McKenna, and Fife, or Callahan, Crozier, and Jay-Z. All right, so this is just a whole bunch of mid prices thrown in. When I look at this, I tend to look at who I think the best one is and who I think the worst one is. So McKenna, I think, is the worst one in this group. Fife is actually pretty close in being the worst one as well. Callahan and Fife, I think, are very similar, but then obviously Callahan is cheaper. Crozier, I think, is far, far better than McKenna. Jay-Z and Ash, I think, are close enough. I would go with this second group here. I would go with Callahan, Crozier, and Jay-Z personally. That's my final answer there. So we're going to come down here. Kane Eddie is saying Goulden and Flanders versus Dawson and McLean. This is another thing. So Goulden seems to be getting a lot of people confused as to what they want to do. Do you want to go for that extra premium, or do you want to go safer in that premium option? So here, obviously, he's spending the money from getting Goulden from Dawson to go McLean / Phillips / King up to Flanders. I think this duo scores better, But I think the concern is, I think they score better and they make more money. But the concern is you potentially will be using more trades on that duo because Dawson stays in and one of these guys obviously goes out, but both of these guys might have to leave at some point. I think I'm still going that first option. Goulden and Flanders I think is quite clear for me. Whilst I'm at McLean versus Phillips versus King, this is tough. So I don't think King. I don't think he's going to have the scoring potential. I saw him play a pretty good game in the Pracky, and he scored about 20 points. So I don't like the King option. McLean I struggle with because I think he has the talent, but the role that he played in that practice match was deplorable, and he was deplorable at it. Does that mean that he's a sub-risk? Does that mean he's going to be out of the best 22? Or does that mean they're going to move him to a role that he can perform better at? I tend to think it's the first two. So I would go Philippou on those three. We're going to come down. Supercoach Mama, obviously some Supercoach royalty here. Callahan versus Bruhn. Callahan would be my M6 and push Phillips on the bench. Bruhn would replace Shizu as my F5, and then later says, happy for suggestions. I currently have Green at F6, Davies third, depending on getting named. Philip on my mid bench. So I think straight up Callahan versus Bruhn. If I just look at this, I think it's Bruhn quite clearly. I think the role is better. I think they're both locked into the best 22, and I think Bruhn's role is just significantly better. It's gonna warrant a lot more points early days. So what does that result in? Bruhn will replace Shizu as my F5. So that means you're not getting Shizu, and you're playing either Davey Sturt or can you move Davey? Can you switch Davey and Philippou? So can you get Philippou at your F6 and then Davey onto your midfield bench? Because I think that is where I would lean. If you can't do that, if you've already got Davey in the midfield, I currently have Green at F6, Sturt. Okay, yeah. So I would try and switch Davey and Philippou if you can, because I think that's okay. I think having Bruhn and Philippou is better than having Callahan and Green, for example. So yeah, I think Bruhn in that head-to-head. Brett Doyle is asking Goulden versus Covington. I think that's quite clearly Goulden. You're talking about someone who's potentially a premium versus someone who will not be. And then English versus Darcy. I did discuss that above. I'm going to go with English personally. I think I'm going to make that switch in my own team shortly after recording this. I still got Darcy there, but I've been toying up with English the entire time. And then we've got Taranto versus Goulden plus 31k. This might be the easiest one, Mish. It's definitely Taranto. I don't care how good you think Goulden will be. Taranto will be better. I think that's quite easy. And the fact that Taranto is in 50% of teams or whatever, that one's very straightforward. You cannot fade Taranto this year. Brett Doyle has come back. So on the ruck bench, Samson Ryan versus 102k ruck forward. I don't actually know. I don't think Samson Ryan is locked into that best 22. I think he played because Lynch was underdone or something like that in the Pracky. So I'm pretty confident, even if he does get a start, I don't think he lasts long. So I think you're probably just better off going the 102 ruck forward, having the flexibility there, and also having the loophole. So Samson Ryan before long will become a loophole, but definitely favouring the 102k. What to do with R3? Play someone like McAndrew who may get a game or make some money, or provide it do the DPP, or Madden. So I think I'm going Madden. If McAndrew, if Laddams and Hickey were out for the first month, for example, I think it would be quite clearly McAndrew. But because Laddams is fit and Hickey is only a couple of weeks away, I don't think it's worth it. He probably doesn't make any money. And if he does, it's late in the season. We can downgrade to him in the forward line and open up that link, for example. But I think Madden and the loophole that he's going to provide, I think is much more important than trying to get 20, 30k out of McAndrew early days. So Red Syrah has asked Darcy and Flanders versus Witts and Shizu. Darcy and Flanders versus Witts and Shizu. All right, so I think this is quite easy as well. I think Darcy and Flanders. We got a couple of votes here as well. Hookie and Brandon agree with me. Darcy and Flanders, I think, are well clear of this one. Flanders and Shizu, I think worst case scenario, Shizu gets to within 10 points of Flanders. Whereas Darcy, I actually think just outperforms Witts. I like Witts, but we saw him slow down towards the end of last season, and Darcy's ruck split seems absolutely A-OK. So I'm definitely backing in Darcy and Flanders there by a good margin. Then we've got Bose, if named, Crozier or McKenna, plus the monetary gains that they get you. So I'm going Crozier here. If I can get up Crozier's stats, let's just go Crozier, fan footy. So here we go. Now Crozier, as you can see, really just peppers the 70. So 2016 for Freeman. Well, let's just go Western Bulldogs. So 79, 75, 76, then nearly 70 in 2021. And then last year was either injured or not best 22. Really came in and out of the squad. If he's fit again this season and looking good, I have no issues whatsoever starting him. So if we can just find the Western Bulldogs game as well. I brought homework to this one, Red Tara, so I hope you're appreciative. We've got... Where is Crozier? All right, so he did get... His finger did pop out, but 79 points in 53% TOG. He is best 22 in my opinion, and if he's not, we'll see so before round one and we can make a switch. But with that best 22 position, I think he's quite easily going to pepper this mark. I mean, he's not going to go... If you extrapolate this, he's not going to go 110 or 120, but I think he can just pepper the 70, 75-ish, occasionally go higher, and that's his role. I think that's just what he's going to do. So I'm pretty comfortable with Crozier in the side. I think Crozier plus 60k, go spend that 60k and enjoy that. I think he's better than Bose. So can you please rate these in order? I can get a combination of any. All right, so we got Ash, Callahan, Warple, Shizu, and Bruhn. Okay, so number one, I think I'm going to go Bruhn. Now, given that midfield role, we saw some news on it yesterday from the Geelong camp that he's just primed and ready to go in the midfield. I think he's really surprised them. I don't think they were anticipating that he would come into the midfield and do what he's done. And I think that has also taken away from Bose, to go back to the last point as well. So yeah, Bruhn, my number one. Ash would be my number two, especially in that position, playing off halfback. Now, the coach has also come out and said that players are going to get their role and they're going to keep their role, which is why so many people are confident on Ash, so many people are confident on Jelly, and so many people called on Callahan, because if they're keeping their roles and Callahan is pure midfield, pure wing, it's just not as good as what we thought with the potential CBAs. So I'll go Bruhn 1, Ash 2. It gets a bit tough then. I would go Warple 3 purely because he's just the CBA mid. If he gets that role all season, we saw him get 30 touches in the Pracky. Even if he does butcher it a lot, we could easily see an 80-85 plus average from that role. And then between Shizu and Callahan, I don't actually know. So it depends really on who goes F where and who goes off the field for the midfield Callahan. Also, we can spend the difference in cash. So that is really a pick your poison. So Bruhn 1, Ash 2, Warple 3, and then I'm happy for you guys to just freelance those last two. Now, next here we got Jelly vs Steel. Now, controversial opinion, Josh Kelly for me. I did like Steele's role. I hated the way he played. He was genuinely allergic to the footy. I know we shouldn't really consider the premiums performances as much, and I wouldn't if Josh Kelly was sort of wing / midfield. But Josh Kelly had their most CBAs for the match and dominated, as we know he can. The only concern with Kelly is that he's probably their number one tag option. But their run to start the season is absolutely phenomenal. He could put points on the board real quick. I reckon after about 8 rounds, we'll see Kelly outscoring Steele by a good amount. And by that point, we're either looking to upgrade to Steele or whatever the case might be. So I think I would much rather start Josh Kelly than Jack Steele personally. And that might be a hot take. Would love to hear the Warple versus Bruhn debate. It's not really a debate. Bruhn in the forward line, I think it just has a lot more value. Warple is surrounded by the Callahans, the Ashes, even the Will Setterfields, who I haven't seen here mentioned often. But Bruhn really has a free run. I think Jack Zeeble for 50k more is around the same type of averaging player, but he's 50k more. And then you drop down to Flanders, and Flanders' role is just significantly worse. So I think Bruhn is just clear in that forward line as the guy, whereas Warple just has a lot of competition. So if I was picking between these two in the midfield, so say both of these are going in that midfield spot, I would still side with Bruhn. Just the flexibility it gives you in the forward line, their forward switches. I think a lot of people really should be looking to get a forward and a defender in their midfield this year for all the switcheroos. And I think it's doable because there aren't a lot of midfield rookies. Jones versus Cole. All right, so this is interesting. I haven't really been giving the shout outs either. So T-Man, Ben Mahon. I think it's just Morn. Russell and okay, I gave the rough red. I don't think I shouted out. Sorry. So Anthony N is asking Jones or Cole. So I just want to look at Cole fan footy quickly. So here we have someone who at best has gone 67 in the 2020 season, which was the shortened quarters. Next best is 62. So I do think he's best 22, but the scoring potential is non-existent. And I know he saves you a little bit of money, but I think people are falling in love with the options that are significantly worse, but save you some money over the options that are just significantly better. Liam Jones, I think, has the potential to go 70 plus quite easily in his role. And from what we saw from him in the Pracky, we can just jump back over to it actually. So Jones had 101 in 92% TOG. He's obviously got that role, 19 disposals. He's not going to average 100, but he will get tons throughout the season. So he has that ceiling. Cole, I just can't see getting tons. I can't see going higher than 80 for many games in the season. So personally, very, very heavily favouring Jones at that point. Now, Seeker is asking Jelly versus Neil. Now, okay, is this the whole lot? McKenna versus Wilmot. So it's Jelly, McKenna, and Crozier versus Neil, Wilmot, and Stocker. Okay. Is it that? Neil, yeah, and then the cheaper, and then, yeah, the cheaper. Okay, yeah, I think it probably is that. So, I mean, obviously, if we're just going versus straight up, we're just picking the more expensive guys. So it must be all three. Honestly, I'm going Jelly, McKenna, and Crozier. I have never been more concerned about a rookie that has popularity as much as Wilmot. He playing on a wing as a rookie. We've seen players who are dedicated wingmen as rookies not survive the wing. Wilmot, not being a dedicated wingman, has been pushed out of his position by McKenna, will not average well on a wing, as rookies don't, and plays for one of the top 4 clubs, we think, this season. It is going to be so difficult for him to maintain that role and stay in the best 22. I have genuine concerns. I think McKenna over Wilmot is enough to sacrifice Neil to Jelly. And while I'm on it, Jelly, I don't know what it is. I just have the supreme confidence in the fact that he led the CBAs for GWS and they're locked into their roles. We haven't seen this type of Jelly for years. And when we did last see him, he was peppering the 120 average. So I just have a lot of confidence in Jelly. Crozier versus Stocker is the last little part of that equation. I've spoken about Crozier. The thing is, though, like, they're not that far apart. If Crozier isn't named with that finger injury, I think we just go to Stocker. So I'm fine with that one just being whatever. But Crozier, I think, is much preferred. It's just that if he's not named, it's just okay because Stocker's a good backup. Bell has said Sam Flanders M6 and Stocker D4, or Finn Callahan M6 and Crozier D4. So we essentially, because I've already said Crozier is slightly better than Stocker. I think Callahan is slightly, I don't know if I'm even contradicting myself here. I think Callahan is slightly better than Flanders. I don't know. I don't even know if I said that earlier or not. I assume I did. But Crozier being better than Stocker, I think, is just enough to say Finn Callahan here. Or bonus edition, Fife, Bruhn, Ash, and a defensive rookie on field. Okay, context I guess being, is it better to spread the risk reward of 2 low end mid prices or go all in on a high end mid pricer with an extra rookie? Well, I think someone like Finn Callahan is as good as 5, but Bruhn's the best of the lot there. So you were saying someone like Bruhn or Ash and a defensive rookie on field. Like if that's Constable, but I assume Constable's already on field and this is like Wilmot as well on field, in which case I would still go with Callahan and Crozier. I think the two of those outscore and outprice a Bruhn and Wilmot on field. This just goes back to my Wilmot confidence and the lack thereof. I really am not confident in Wilmot as an on-field option. If this was Bruhn and McKenna, for example, I think definitely the Bruhn and McKenna combination. But if it has to be someone as low as Wilmot, then I just don't think you're really making that work for points. Bubs, we don't have many left, by the way. Bubs has said Jelly and Fife versus Cogs and Ash. Yeah, that's a bit difficult, isn't it? I think it's Cogs and Ash. I think Ash definitely makes more money than Fife. And I think Cogs is much safer in his line to be top echelon than what Jelly is. So I would go Cogs and Ash personally. That's a tough one though. I didn't expect that one to be so tough. So Stocker versus Jones versus Crozier. We have spoken about this a lot, but I would go Jones over Crozier. So I've already said Crozier over Stocker. I think Jones then over Crozier. The intercepting role, the security that offers, and the fact that they're happy to use him on the switch, they're happy to use him exiting. I think Jones just is super safe, and the fact that you don't have to worry. The other two, you could argue, could be best 22 shaky at some points, whereas Jones locked in. I think he's clearly the option there. We're going to scroll down maybe for the last time. So Jacko has asked 2 premiums versus 1 premium and 2 mid prices. So we're looking at Dawson, Neil, Holland / King, Sturt / Chesser, Phillips and Philippi on field, or Crozier, Jelly, Setterfield, Cunnington. Right. This is difficult. This is tough. It all really comes down to how much you trust these options here. Your Hollands and King. See, Hollands could honestly last a month and be dropped, and I wouldn't be shocked. King does not have the scoring potential, whereas Sturt and Chesser, very similar job security issues with those two as well. This is more secure, but it is 1 versus 2 premiums, as you've said, because Cunnington's not that guy. I would potentially go Cunnington down to a Jay-Z or a Bruhn and just see what that does elsewhere. Could you go Jelly higher in that case? If Cunnington and Setterfield were Ash and Bruhn, what could you do with these two here? Is my question. But I think this is so difficult. I have really no inkling because it just comes down to what you believe these guys here, the fringe guys, are going to do. Because you know what these two and these two are going to do. What are the fringe guys going to do? I think you're probably safer with a Setterfield and a Cunnington type than you are going with these guys. I just don't have a lot of faith in the rookies. It's very difficult for me to trust the rookies. And these names that you've mentioned all have significant issues. I know Phillips and Philippi on field, that's fine. You're not going to field these guys, that's okay. But I still just think this is the way these days. With the extra trades and the sort of the money chasing that people are doing, I think this is what's going to warrant you the most sort of leg up on the competition. Interesting to see what you can do with those price points though. So Bilby the Cleaner says Sicily or Ridley and the dollars to upscale. That upscale results in Flanders to a Zeeble or Bruhn. Can't get to Gordon. So I think Sicily and Flanders is quite clearly the way here. I don't have a lot of faith in Ridley, and I don't think it's worth getting Flanders up to one of these names here personally. So I think just lock in Sicily, and then Flanders is fine. Cat Face has said Radaglia or an animate carbon rod and use the cash elsewhere. So I assume this is R3 and you're talking about Radaglia versus a loophole, in which case I'm going the loophole. The loophole might even score more points, I'm not sure, but I don't think Radaglia is much of an option. We got Darcy versus Witts. I did mention this earlier. I think Darcy is clear. Much prefer that, and the money that it gets you as well is just an added bonus. Callahan and Bruhn versus Worpel and Flanders. I'm going Callahan and Bruhn on this one. I just think Bruhn is significantly better than Flanders, and Callahan and Worpel. I think Worpel's better, don't get me wrong, but that one could be close enough to sort of mitigate. So definitely going option 1 there from Sharpie. Daiso has asked McLean or Shizu. This is clearly Shizu. By so far, it's not even funny. I need people to lock in Shizu if they can. I know some options above ended up not having him. It's not like he's essential, but over the McLeans, over the Kings, over the Phillips, he's just going to give you so much more in terms of points and money, I believe, that I think is just worth trying to find that cash if you can. So we've got Oliver and Crozier versus Sicily and one of the 300k mids. Personally, I'm going Sicily and Ash. I think Sicily and Ash is the better combination. Oliver, I have reservations about Oliver. I don't think his role is going to be different to the point where like he's unpickable, but I just think there's the potential that he sheds at 70-80k by the time we're looking to get him in. Whereas I think Sicily could sort of maintain / back up, and I think the 300k mids are better than Crozier by a good way. So we got Ash versus Worpel. If it hasn't been asked, I can only see it in combos. I think I've made it clear that I'm Ash over Worpel by a good margin. I think Worpel is very good. If you have both of them, I think it's great if you're going that low in your midfield. The thing is, I think there are... What's going to happen this year is we're going to have 40 players start the season really well, and each team is going to have 20 of those 40. And then they're going to be looking at the other 20 thinking, man, I wish I had that guy. Should I trade this guy for that guy, this guy for... And it's like, no, your guys are doing enough. It's just that there's a lot of good options this year. And these two are both good options. I just slightly prefer Ash, personally. Aaron has asked Zeeble and Fife or Cogs and a Rook. This is so easy to me. Even if the rookie is on field, I think I would rather Cogs. Just get Cogs. You're getting an extra premium. Someone who's going to be top of their line, guaranteed. I think you just get him. The Dirty Schneidez has asked, has Zeeble versus Flanders been covered? Not really. There is a price difference there as well. I think Zeeble is better and better by the price difference, but depending on where else... So everyone has like a personal attachment to players on their team, and some players on my team might be more droppable than players on other people's team. So I can navigate money around this and go, yeah, I can keep Zeeble by navigating money elsewhere and getting the upgrades that I want. Some people can't. If you're one of those people... and this is your way to get the money, then get the money. Like, it's not to the point where Zeeble is that much better that you're going to be like, oh no, I have to spend this money on Flanders up. But I do think Zeeble will average more and probably make equal, if not more money. So Crozier versus McKenna. Again, money difference here, but Crozier safer on field, probably safer to make more money as well. McKenna, I don't quite know if he's going to just do the things in that role. I don't know if he screams like a 60-65, whereas Crozier, I feel, can be a 75 and sort of make equal money while scoring more points on field. Josh Legion of Boom has asked Stewart or Gordon as his first either or. I'm going Stewart there. You're talking about a guaranteed premium versus a potential premium. Darcy or English I've covered. The more I talk about it, the more I'm leaning English. But I think both are very good options. Led or Oliver. Led, I think, is quite easily... Oh, this guy's answered. He's gone Gordon over Stewart. Jeff, that's crazy talk. I think Led is far and away the best option in Supercoach this year. I think he's almost the biggest lock, and he has like the lowest percentage. So lastly, we've got Toddy asking Gordon and Darcy Cameron versus Bruhn and Gorn. Right, so there is every chance you're looking at 0 premiums versus 1 premium here. And I think Bruhn is actually a better option than Darcy Cameron. So I'm going to go Bruhn and Gorn. The thing is, though, I think there are better options than Gorn. I think if that was Bruhn and Darcy or English versus Gordon and Darcy Cameron, I think it's like levels. It's so clearly the second option, but I'm not quite sold on Gawn. If you are though, Bruhn and Gawn easily for me, I think quite easily. So what did you think of that? What did you disagree with? What did you agree with? I know there was a lot that were very close. I hope I was consistent throughout the whole thing. If you've got one of your own that you're thinking about, please do comment below and I'll make sure I answer it before the season starts. And as always, thanks very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, then you'll probably enjoy some of the others that we have out as well at the moment. We've got a couple more hopefully coming this week before the footy season starts. And if you do like us, you can support us by following our Patreon and Twitter's, YouTube's, etc. Thanks very much for watching.